I'm Gregory Hall with Inside Carolina. I'm here with Taylor Vippolis. We're at the Tylee Strong North Carolina spring game here. It's a cool, 50, 55, 59 degrees, windy, it's breezy. UNC showed out in front of fans today to wrap up the spring. Taylor, what were your initial takeaways?
A lot of people would say this weather is cold. I'm saying it's perfect football weather. My initial takeaways were that this North Carolina team, I think they're right where they kind of expected themselves to be after the spring practices. I talked with Coach Chizik before the game, and I know a lot of people might be worried about some things that the defense did. Their base calls were very simplified today, and I think that this team, after talking with the coaching staff, is pretty content and pretty confident with where they are heading into the summer.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of complicated blitzes today. It was really about what can the power ends, what can the jacks do to try to get around the edge, what can the nose tackles, the defensive tackles, just everyone in whole. There weren't a lot of defensive back blitzes, secondary blitzes, none of that, which I think is kind of why the offense excelled a little bit. They won the overall battle 45-32. What'd you like about the offense? I thought they looked pretty good considering the beginning of the spring, the defense seemed dominant.
Yeah, and the point that Coach Chizik made that I want to go back to real quick is just that by the end of the spring, he wanted a team that was playing fast and playing confident, and I think he accomplished both those goals. But when you watch this offense today, I think the first point that everybody's going to want to talk about is the quarterback competition. And I think Jacoby Criswell was a lot better than I think a lot of people probably expected him to be. I think a lot of people have kind of already tabbed Drake May as the next quarterback, Sam Howell's successor. But I'm not ready to go there quite yet after watching Jacoby Criswell. I think he's going to have a lot to say with this competition. And I think that when you look at this offense, that was the biggest talking point today with the quarterbacks. I even thought Connor Harrell looked pretty good today.
Yeah, it's not that Drake May didn't look good today, right? I think across the board, Jacoby Criswell, Connor Harrell, Drake May, they all looked sharp. They all made good throws. I didn't really see any bad throws. I mean, Connor Harrell had one overthrow down the right side, but that was about it. I mean, Drake May hit Josh Downs for a beautiful deep ball. Connor Harrell hit the tight end for it was Copenhagen for a beautiful deep ball. Connor Harrell fit one in over the middle. Like, all three guys were finding tight windows, and the talk with the wide receiver room has been that it's thin. Other than Josh Downs, we know he's elite. He was the best guy on the field today. What'd you like from the other guys?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if the offense is going to be good. I don't know if the defense is going to be good for Carolina this year. I do know Josh Downs is going to be really, really good. He is one of the best players, going to be one of the best players this year, I think, in college football. You can pencil him in for 1,000+ yards. He's going to make whoever does win this quarterback competition their job significantly easier with how well he does create separation. I liked what I saw from somebody like Bryson Nesbitt. He can play outside. He could play inside at the tight end position or flex outside to more of that traditional wide receiver role. And then I think you saw somebody like Kobe Paysour, who has gotten a lot of hype from this coaching staff over this past spring, and you're starting to see that kind of matriculate on the field where he connects with a deep ball from Connor Harrell. It got brought back because of a penalty on the offensive line, but you could start to see why people are starting to talk about more and more about Kobe Paysour and how he's kind of leapfrogged some of those other young guys on this depth chart.
So Josh Downs, obvious standout player, right? Who are your others?
Yeah, I would say the running backs. I really like the running backs. Kamaro Edmonds at the end, George Petaway. I'm interested to see who gets that number 2 spot for the running backs because it seems pretty clear that it's British Brooks' job to lose at the running back position. He's going to be taking on a ton of reps from that running back 1 spot. But when you talk to the coaching staff, I think it's pretty clear that they want a number 2. Mm-hmm. So from that number 2 spot, it's going to be interesting to see who kind of takes that. I think Elijah Green has shown some stuff this spring, DJ Jones, and then those two true freshmen.
Yeah, it's pretty one through 4 as far as DJ Jones and Elijah Green, George Petaway, and Edmonds. Like, all 4 of them show different things. Petaway's speed, I think, is unmatched. But DJ Jones and Elijah Green have better inside vision on some of those inside runs. Petaway gets kind of clogged a little bit. And Edmonds had some big runs and ability to kind of get around the edge. So that should be interesting and one of the main battles to watch come August. Offensive line versus defensive line, right? Everyone knows the defensive line is really deep. We mentioned earlier, not a lot of complicated things going on. Did you like what you saw out of the offensive line? I thought they looked pretty aggressive today.
Yeah, I think it's still a major work in progress along the offensive line. I think some people, when the coaches look back on the tape, some people are probably going to grade out a lot better than others when you have somebody going up against Des Evans consistently and
Back-to-back sacks.
your guy Des Evans getting back-to-back sacks there. And that defensive line, I think that there's so much unproven for this Carolina team, both offensively and defensively. But the one consistent should be along the defensive line where those guys are young, but they do have some proven continuity there with guys like Ritzy, like Miles Murphy. So it's an offensive line that they're still gelling. It's a position coach who had just gotten here, less than a month ago probably at this point. So I think they're one of the areas where I'm saying that this team has to grow the most from today's date to that Florida A&M game for this team to try to reach their full potential.
Last thing here, biggest question mark, a question that you have that still needs to be answered the most as the off-season kind of goes in the summer and whatnot.
Yeah, I think Carolina, they have a ton of great options at the receiver position, so it's going to make the secondary not look as good, especially when you have guys like Jaquarius Conley out, Storm Duck out. And I think that would be my biggest worry for this team from Carolina's perspective heading into the summer and into the season. But I think it's a case where once you start to get guys back healthy, it should look a lot better than it looked today from the secondary, and be a more complete product as they're still working with Coach Warren and Coach Bly as they're trying to figure things out.
Yeah, Day-Day Holland's out too, Gio Biggers, Cam Kelly, Don Chapman, all limited until recently. So as the wide receivers kind of picked them apart today, we don't expect that to happen in August as those guys come back and get more healthy. That's it from the spring game, the Tylee Strong spring game, who was honored before the game as an honorary captain. I'm Gregory Hall with Taylor Vippolis signing off for Inside Carolina.